Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome to St. Robert's Daygame Pickup Podcast episode number 50. In this podcast episode, I want to talk about something I've been thinking a lot lately. I've been thinking about what is the difference between the guys who learn daygame fast. Let's say they start daygaming and in a few months they're getting decent results. And what's the difference between them and the guys who keep learning for a year, for 2 years, maybe longer, and still don't seem to crack day games, still don't seem to get good results. I have been thinking about this a lot. I know many day gamers from many different countries, many different age groups, younger, older, guys in running big businesses and guys working simple manual labor type of jobs. And I really wanted to understand what makes a good day gamer. So I recently reached out to three guys who have been following me for a while and learning day game. I simply sent them PMs and I said, "Hey guys, I want to chat with you and try to figure out what's going on in your head." I wanted to have a call with them and figure out how is their day game learning going, what are their biggest challenges, and what are the thoughts about day game as part of their life in general. What's their thought process about how they learn, what they do, etc. My plan was to figure out what is missing in guys' day game journey. All the theories out there. There is no more need to create material on how to talk to girls on streets, how to text, what to do on dates. That's why I don't create that much material on theory. I don't explain the technical side of day game. It has all been done time and time again, and all the theory books contain pretty much the same theory. They explain the same London day game model with minor differences in how the author understands and teaches the model. Well, I wanted to understand what is the missing part. What is keeping amazing high value guys who have read all the theory, have the looks, maybe are running a good business, the lifestyle, and everything. What keeps them from getting good at talking to girls and getting a few regulars around them wherever they go on their travels? And after these three calls, I clearly saw it. You would be surprised how much you can find out about people in only just a few calls if you know the right questions to ask. And what you would be even more surprised to find out is how similar the thought process and challenges most guys have are. I'm publishing this podcast once a week, maybe once in 2 weeks, depending on how busy I am with my coaching schedule. But if there is anything more I want to share with my audience, like some lay reports, some crazy stories, some new ideas about day game, I either send it out to my mailing list or I talk about it in our Day Game Church Telegram group chat. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any important stuff, including cities I'm traveling to, etc., make sure you sign up for the mailing list and the Day Game Church group chat, both of which you can do by going to my website, strobert.blog, and filling any of the forms on the website. In the welcome email, you will get a link you can use to join the Day Game Church group chat. And another big thing I want to announce this week is I've had many guys ask me whether there is any way they can support my content on what I do apart from getting coaching. Maybe they don't need coaching or they've done it before, but they still want to support my podcast and my work. And the second thing people ask a lot about, they want to hear audio recordings of my infield sets. So I decided to combine these things and I've created a Patreon page. So if you want to support what I do and buy me a coffee so that I can sit in a weird small coffee shop in whichever city I am and write the script for the next podcast, or if you want to buy me a beer on a lonely night when I didn't pull my date, or maybe you want to help me take a girl on a cheap date to a shitty dive bar, you can go to my Patreon page and choose to do so. I created 4 tiers of support. You can simply buy me a coffee as a thank you, or if you buy me a beer, then what you get is you get me breaking down my students in fields, which means each month I'll post a recording of me analyzing my students' sets Student will be doing a set, I'll pause it, I'll explain what's good, what's wrong, and you can learn from my students' mistake. And the third tier is the date tier, where you can pay for a cheap date in a dive bar, where I will post both me breaking down my students in field, and also every month I'll post a recording of me breaking down my own infield set. So it will be me in field doing a set, pausing the set, explaining what I do, why I did that thing, and how you can learn from that. And of course, if you want to be a high roller and be a sugar daddy, then there's the fourth level for guys that want to get a shout out on podcast, if that's your thing. So if you want to support my podcast and get access to my audio infields, then this is the way to do it. You can find my Patreon page by going to strobert.blog/Patreon, or simply clicking the link in the podcast description and under this video, in the email, or wherever the fuck you're listening to this. Let me tell you about the three guys I spoke to, what is their thought process, what challenges they're having. There is a lot to learn from these conversations. Obviously, as you might have guessed, the names have been changed, and other personal details have been changed. The three guys I talk about in this podcast episode are kind of fictional characters created from the conversations I had with the guys. So there would be no way you could figure out who the guys I'm talking about actually are. Let's call the first guy Dan. Dan is in his early 30s, and he lives in one of the biggest cities in Europe. He's self-employed and really good at what he does. He's a real professional of his craft, works hard, makes decent money, athletic guy who spends a lot of his free time in gym, actually like many day gamers do. And he told me he has been following my content for over a year. And when I asked him what's his day game story, he said, I'm fucking close to cracking it. And at the same time, I sometimes feel like I'm 1 million miles away. As soon as I crack day game, I'll probably want to travel around, maybe go to Belgrade or another city, and try to meet local women there. But Dan is stuck in the part where he's still dealing with fear. When he goes out, he keeps walking around and takes too long between interactions. To deal with this, he has tried some social freedom exercises that you have probably seen on YouTube. He has read a lot of books. He has read Steve Jobber's PDFs, Krauser's and Torrero's books, and tons of other stuff. But he says he kind of feels it's the same fucking thing. It's all about going out and doing the thing. He says I need to stop reading stuff and I need to start doing. He actually understands that his biggest issue is not going out enough. Obviously, living outside city center and having to commute to the city center and back, which is 40 minutes, well, it obviously doesn't help. Because Dan is not going out enough and becoming desensitized, when he opens really hot girls, he kind of freezes up and doesn't know what to say. He often doesn't get completely in front of the girls, and feels like learning is fucking slow. Biggest challenge he has, just as many other day gamers, is being out and doing the approaches. He says, once I'm in good mood, I can do this. Otherwise, I'm so much in my head most of the time. Dan wants to deal with his approach anxiety. He understands that once he'll be out all the time, it shouldn't be too hard to get a couple of nice girls around him, because he has done it in the past from night game, social circle, and different other ways. He calls himself a theory junkie, and he knows he should stop reading and start doing. He has actually wanted to do infield coaching for a while. He has reached out several times to start scheduling it, but he's never really pulled the trigger and done it. But right now he's in a place in his life where he can afford to do it, both in terms of time and in terms of money. When we set up the call, I explicitly said it won't be a sales call, and my plan is not to sell anything, not to even give ideas that he should do some things. It was simply to understand his thinking. But by the end of the call, he said he has wanted to get infield coaching for a long time, and he knows he just has to pull the trigger. He actually kind of sold the infield coaching to himself. So right now he said he'll check the list of countries he can go to without having to spend 2 weeks in quarantine when he goes back home. And we are in the process of setting up 3 days of infield coaching. Well, Dan's story is actually very typical. It's a guy who understands game, who has who has had success previously from different sources of meeting women, whether it's night game, social circle, or anything else. And he's in a good point in his life. His work is sorted, and he's a fit dude. Like everything is good. He's a high value guy, but he still has problems making day game a real part of his life. He's been learning off and on for a few years now, and still hasn't gotten really good. And you can kind of, from his story, understand why that is. It's the actual commitment, going out enough, doing it enough times per week, learning to overcome approach anxiety and do those 10 sets each time you are out. And now let's meet the second guy. Let's call him Marco. Marco is also around 30, and he's a digital nomad who's lived in some very nice day game cities. He's done a few hundred sets, and he actually got one lay from day game. He's been day gaming off and on for 2 years and following my content for a little less than a year. And he knows his biggest challenge is quitting the off-on thing and actually sticking to learning day game. Marco's biggest short-term day game goal is to become more consistent with day game and do at least 18 sets in a week to begin with. And he also cares a lot about how he's being perceived by others. He thinks when other people see him in a set, they think, oh, that's this guy talking to hot girls he doesn't know. It's weird. And for him, it's very hard to stop caring and to continue opening when he has these feelings that everyone's judging him, everyone's looking at him. The good news is it's actually very normal, and most day gamers, when they begin, have this feeling, oh, everyone's looking, what are they thinking about me? So Marco is not the first guy in the world to have this feeling. It's very common, it's normal when guys haven't got enough experience under their belt. To try to become more consistent, he has tried to make day game part of his routine. So he would actually force himself to go out, even when he didn't want to, didn't feel like going out, but that didn't really work for him. When Marco was younger, he used to be a night gamer, but as with many others, many other day gamers, once you get older and start focusing on your business and health and fitness, staying up all night, 4 times a week doesn't seem like that good of an idea anymore. As I said before, Marco is a digital nomad and he travels from city to city. He usually spends at least a few months in each city, and he would love to have a consistent sex life. Go to a new city and after a month have 3 girls he's seeing. A really interesting thing is that he actually noticed that he is afraid to reach that goal. He tends to stop when things get good. Maybe he has several good leads, gets a lay, or gets a other form of success in day game. He noticed a pattern. He does 1 to 2 months of good day game, going out enough. He starts getting success, and then as soon as he starts getting success, he stops and gets back to no dating life at all. And there is always a reason. There is this new all-important work project he has to fully immerse in, or something else, and he always says to himself, after I complete this thing, I can really immerse myself in day game, I can get good, and then the cycle starts all over again. Well, let's be honest, his excuses aren't actually bad, they're okay. It's either a new work project, but then in reality he actually doesn't spend more than 4 hours a day on work, or he also sometimes has this idea that what's the point, I'll soon move to another city anyway, so what's the point of sleeping with these girls if I'll never see them again, and if I won't have them as regulars. These points might seem like good excuses, but as you understand, if you are more experienced day gamer, well, they're not, and they're just excuses not to go out, and there is probably something deeper behind those excuses. Marco told me he has wanted to really commit to day game, and he has wanted to reach out to me for a while now, but he has just been waiting for the right moment. And of course, he understands, he knows he's just procrastinating when he's saying, I have to do this one thing, a job, or one new project, and then I can finally reach out and I can finally commit to day game. Well, as you see, Marco is in a bit of a different spot than Dan. Dan had the main problem was approach anxiety and going out enough. Well, Marco kind of has the same problem and isn't going out enough. It seems his biggest struggle isn't approach anxiety and fear. His biggest struggle is fear of success. And as soon as he starts getting somewhere, he kind of becomes lazy, takes breaks, etc., which is what a lot of day gamers do. The biggest mistake I see day gamers do when they learn technique and start getting some results is feeling too comfortable and starting to take breaks, especially after coaching. Guys come for infield coaching and they do a lot of sets during infield coaching, and they go back home and then they take a week off. And usually after the week off, obviously they've lost most of the skills. So the most important thing after taking the infield coaching is going back home and immediately from day one doing sets, being in field, polishing those skills that you learned in those days. So it feels like Marco is in that spot where as soon as he starts to get some success, he kind of takes a little break, and obviously you shouldn't do that. That's one way guys keep learning off and on and don't really commit. And now let's talk about the third guy. Let's call him Jamie. Jamie is younger, he's 23, and he started day gaming a year ago and last summer. He had tried some online dating, but it always ended up really bad. And in 1 year he has done 150 sets and he has gotten one lay. And he believed the same thing many guys who haven't tried day game do, that he has to open a few girls, maybe 10, and he would get a girlfriend. By the way, if you day game a lot, and your friends ask, oh well, how many girls do you have to talk to? That's so crazy. And when you say, oh, I have to talk to, let's say, 50 girls to sleep with one of them, those guys say, oh my god, that's like, why would you even do that? It's not worth the work. Like, you must be really bad. I mean, if I spoke to 10 girls, I would sleep with one of them. And it's always really funny how guys who don't day game have this distorted view of how dating works, and how easy it would be to get laid if only they overcome approach anxiety. But if you have more experience, you obviously know that it's not like that, and you can't just expect to talk to 10 girls and get results. Jamie isn't naive. He understands that the game isn't just for self-improvement, it's about sex, and he wants to fuck. Maybe start a relationship one day if he finds someone he really likes, but for now he just wants to have a few regulars. He has the same goals as many other guys. Keep approaching, be consistent, do a few hundred sets by the next spring and get 3 regulars. He decided to commit. He got inspired and started going out much more. He's a young guy who can't afford coaching, so he's working on his sets on his own, and he's actually putting in decent work. He's recording sets, listening back to them, and thinking, what could have he said differently? He watches material, reads books. He'd love to have someone more experienced to listen to his sets and see what he's doing wrong, but for now he is doing everything on his own. And I love his approach. That's kind of how I started. I went out shitload, I recorded my sets, I listened back to them, I was consuming theory, I was really analyzing my sets a lot and thinking, okay, what could I have said differently? What's the story I could have told here, etc., etc. The most important thing for Jamie, what you guys have to understand is he is so in 1 year he did 150 sets, which is not much at all. That's what you should do in 1 month, like not 1 month, but 1.5, 2 months. You should do, if you do 25 sets a week, then that's 1.5 months, maybe 2 months if you like are a bit lazy and take some time off, which is fine as well. So the most important thing for a guy like that is to understand that in a year he has done 150 sets, and now that he has now that he's inspired and he's going out more and analyzing his sets, what he has to do, he has to stay committed. It's not just about inspiration, because that's just like getting inspired and going to the gym, you need much more than just inspiration and just to sign the gym membership agreement. You need much more to become fit. You might have noticed that these three stories, these three guys, they're very, very similar. They're about overcoming fear, doing enough sets, then getting your first results, and then taking breaks, not doing enough sets, taking a week off, taking a few days off, finding this reason not to go out. Maybe it's a new work project you really have to immerse yourself in. Maybe it's, oh, it's commute. I have to commute to the city center to day game. There's always a reason to take breaks. And yes, infield coaching is amazing for overcoming fear and learning to get late from day game, but that's not all. You have to learn to be consistent. You have to learn to, instead of learning day game off and on for years, you have to find a model that works for you so that you're going out consistently. There are some really, really simple rules you have to understand, you have to follow if you want to get good at day game. As I talk a lot about in the 3 pillars of day game free video course, which is available on my website, the one about why your day game is improving so slow. Well, there are 3 parts of learning day game, and the first one is you have to do 25 sets in a week, and there's no way around it. You have to go out enough. And so that's the first step. If you're not doing that, then don't worry about the quality of your sets. You can't expect to run good sets if you don't go out enough, because you're too much in your head, you're thinking too much, and you just don't have that good vibe that you would have if you would become desensitized to approach anxiety. You could approach really hot girls and feel free in front of them. So that's really, really step number 1. You have to go out, you have to do 25 sets in a week. Second phase is you have to learn the technicalities of day game. You have to learn the skills, and whether you do that by reading books, watching videos, analyzing your recordings, or getting infield coaching, that's on you. But that's the second part. And also during this second part, you have to go in, you have to go out enough. You have to stay committed. And then the third part, the third phase of learning day game is when you finally get some results. You have a few regulars, you get a few lays, and all of a sudden you kind of feel, oh yeah, I did it, I made it, it's amazing, and you take a week off and you go on a vacation and you don't day game there, or you start going out less, and boom, all your skills that you thought you have are now lost, and that's it. So in the third phase you have to still keep going out enough. And how much is enough? I think enough is, well, you can't skip more than 1 day of day game, or maybe 2 at most. If you skip more than 2 days of day game, approach anxiety will be back very, very fast, and the things you've learned few days before, the new kind of nuances you understood, they'll be lost. You will maybe know them in theory, but you won't be able to perform that well in action. And boom, just taking 3 days off fires you back in your day game evolution. So the third phase is really going out enough, not skipping more than 1 or 2 days of day gaming. And that's what you have to do if you want to learn day game fast, instead of spending years learning day game off and on. If this was the podcast you needed to hear to stop learning day game off and on for years and finally committing and deciding to learn day game faster and committing to it, then, well, think about who else would benefit from listening to this podcast, and you can send them this podcast episode and help them out. Also, if you like this, then please leave this podcast a 5-star review on iTunes, or give it a thumbs up on YouTube, or wherever the fuck you're listening to this. It helps me reach more people and help more guys to finally take control of their dating life and start dating girls they really like. If listening to my podcast has helped you improve your dating life and get more sets in and get more numbers, maybe get more dates, maybe get more lays, or maybe you've learned to save money on dates by taking girls on cheaper dates, and you think it has been helpful to you, well, you can support me on Patreon. So just go to saintrobert.blog/Patreon, or click in the link in the description if you wanna support me on Patreon. That's it for today. Thank you and bye, guys.